Work Youth Clubs, which is for sale over there, and she's going to talk to us about city centres and their impact on local provision. Thanks very much.
Not a book club, a book club even. Yes, well, exactly. Quite a long time ago I wrote that book, and I wrote it because I felt that youth work seemed to have forgotten about the fact that a lot of us out there were actually working in youth clubs. It seemed to have got very focused on sort of individual young people, and that was about 5 years ago that, before that obviously I started thinking about it. So this issue is still with us and with me, I suppose. I think, if you think about youth work, you often come back to the youth club, and Jean's stuff in the papers we had today, she talks about the stories of people being involved in youth work. If you just talk to people anywhere, they'll often, if you ever mention that you do work in youth clubs, or they'll come up with a story about how much fun they had at their youth club, the atmosphere of that community, and there's lots of stories around about that. I know Bernard's going to be encouraging us to tell stories later on. And there's some really good writing out there about it. For instance, Jeremy Brent's just done, well, he sadly died, but this book of his published about Southmead Youth Centre and the community there, and the importance of community to young people, because the other half of most of our descriptions of our work is about youth and community, and the importance of place to young people. I think, however much we think young people are free spirits and they can move around. In fact, if you look at any town, young people are often stuck in quite narrow spaces where, because of lack of transport and moving around and issues about territory, etc. And provision has certainly, I think, declined over the last few years, and has often quite targeted small provisions, even if it's meeting in a youth club. I'm currently doing a little bit of girls' work in a centre, but that girls' work is separate to the rest of the life of that centre. Those girls only come to that particular session. And then sometimes, you look back at those lovely stories, and done some talking to people from the Albemarle centres in the 60s, and you think, is this just nostalgic? Is this not what young people want today? They've all got their MySpaces on the net. Do they really need spaces to gather? I think that's something we need to think about. Albemarle, when in the Albemarle report, one of the things they talked about was giving young people who didn't go to university the sort of student union experience. And I was listening to some radio programme recently about the decline of student unions, because everybody used to have to go down to student union to find out what was going on. That's how you found out where you met your people. If you were at university, you went down. Now you can all text each other and arrange to meet somewhere else. And even the cheap beer isn't actually dragging the world, and that's happened commercially as well, I suppose, competition. So I think one of the things we need to think about is this still a value? Is this a core business for youth work? I think it is. But the other issue with youth centres and youth clubs is often the age of young people. If you look at there's a couple really good films. Well, there's one about Withywood, but there's The Land of Boys, which you may have seen. And those young people are quite old young people, and they're going to work. They'd left school at 14 or so, they'd gone to work. They had money to throw around, and they didn't have access to going to pubs, perhaps, and so the youth club was a really important thing in their lives. Today, youth clubs do tend to attract perhaps younger young people, and that age, that sort of 16, 17-year-old, one of my students described it as sort of too old for youth clubs and too young for proper clubs. And those are the young people who are often roaming around the streets with absolutely nothing to do, or ending up in people's houses, or So I think we do need to think about what they need, and what we should be providing, I suppose, as a society. I was quite encouraged by all this new My Place stuff, and initially, somebody's actually sort of taken this seriously. They think there's a role for a youth club, a youth centre. I think there's quite a lot of issues about who's funding those, how they're decided. Very few of them are up and running yet. For instance, the Salmon Centre, the Vision Salmon Centre, which is the big centre in Bermondsey, which is often used as an example, is that our hope is that the young people may recognise and respond to the Christian faith, which is the basis of our work and which we believe gives true meaning and direction for life. And obviously, that's their perspective, but this is held out as an example of a new important community project, but actually a lot of these are, they're provided by a particular faith or a particular organisation. They're not local authority in the sense that they used to be. And, well, that's something else we could debate. The other thing is who runs them and what the role of those people running them are. Brighton Youth Centre have just advertised a post, which is a chief executive post, which I think is probably the kiss of death to any organisation when they start to employ a chief executive. So anyway, their job is going to be to manage and develop at both the strategic and operational level, include all aspects of organisational development and operation, including legislative, procedural, fundraising, staff management, publicity and promotion, monitoring and evaluation and project development. And there's not a word about young people in there at all. So the post, and you don't need to be a youth worker, because I did inquire about it. So I think, you know, that is the way things are going. I suppose the things we'd like to think about in this session when we break, people who want to come and talk about buildings, you know, is there something about building-based work which is, that in terms of the core principles of youth work, that we need to hold on to? Are these youth centres, people who've got experience of them, can probably tell us where they work? Are they getting, you know, are we losing small one-night-a-week clubs? I mean, I think the idea of communities being able to provide their own youth provision as well is difficult with all the new CRBs, all that sort of stuff, puts people off perhaps. So how far is that affecting the ability of people to organise themselves? You know, so who should fund and run them? Should it be public? Should we be providing this as public provision? Or should it be third sector charity provision? Should the local authority should have another Albemarle? We need to all those buildings that are still there, a lot of them are really run down buildings, aren't they? Some of you probably work in them. And the space for association. Sometimes I think, although, you know, you can argue about youth work being an educational process, but young people need things to do and places to go and activities and fun. And actually I don't see anything wrong with the community providing that for young people as a bottom line, really. And then the issue about who's going to be working there, or whether we should all go off and do our management courses rather than our youth work courses. Okay, thank you.